You always say Jessica is so capable. Well, is she capable for you? You like her so much. Why did you set her up with Kevin in the first place? You should have just divorced me and taken her for yourself. My wife, Sarah, slammed the colander into the sink with a deafening crash. Dirty water splashed across my face, her voice shrill and piercing. What the hell are you talking about? I just think Kevin should treat her better. I'm the one who introduced them, after all. Look at what he's become. I wiped the grimy water from my face, breathing hard. My chest felt tight, like a boulder was lodged in it. The rest of my words got stuck in my throat, coming out as a choked, frustrated grunt. Part 1. Jessica Reed was my brother-in-law Kevin's wife. She was also my assistant and protégée at the office. She didn't stand out when she first joined the company. With a degree from state school, she was like an unpolished stone in a sea of Ivy Leaguers and grads from top-tier universities. But her eyes, they didn't have the timid flicker of a rookie fresh out of college. They were calm, steady, and focused. She'd only been shadowing me for 6 months before she was already handling major tasks on her own. I knew this young woman had something special. She was honest, competent, and had a drive that wouldn't quit. At the time, my wife's younger brother, Kevin, was single. And in a moment of what I can only call temporary insanity, I thought, why not keep a good thing in the family? On impulse, I decided to introduce Jessica to him. When I mentioned it to my wife, Sarah, she was 100% on board. But then I thought about Kevin's real character, and a wave of regret washed over me. Still, I figured I was just making an introduction. Whether it worked out or not was up to them. I told Sarah to have a serious talk with her brother, tell him to clean up his act. Jessica was a good woman. The last thing I wanted was to push her into a dumpster fire. That evening, Sarah called Kevin over to our house. The second he saw me, he was all smiles and, "Hey, Michael, my man," laying it on thick. Turns out, Sarah had already shown him a picture of Jessica. The guy, for all his faults, had good taste. He was smitten. Kevin even swore up and down to me. "Michael, I promise I won't let you down." I just scoffed. "It's not me you'll be letting down. If you screw this up, you're only embarrassing yourself." Normally, a comment like that would have had Kevin storming off and Sarah rushing to his defense. But this time, they were surprisingly united. It was Jessica or bust. Left with little choice, I found a moment to talk to Jessica about it. "If you're not interested, just say the word, and I'll shut it down," I told her. Jessica was completely unfazed. She just shrugged and said, "It's no big deal. It's just a date, not a marriage license." Her easygoing attitude put me at ease. The girl had a good head on her shoulders. So I set up the meeting. To give him some space, I made the introductions and then dragged Sarah off to go shopping. Honestly, I thought the whole thing was a long shot. There was no way a woman like Jessica would fall for a guy like Kevin. Sure, he was putting on a perfect gentleman act to win her over, but I knew it was only a matter of time before his true colors bled through. But to my astonishment, it seemed like Kevin was genuinely head over heels. He started showing up to his dead-end job on time, and all his little slobbish habits vanished. Seeing him like that, I thought hell had frozen over. He even started sending flowers to Jessica at my office every day and would be waiting outside to pick her up when she got off work. Somehow, Kevin's relentless pursuit broke through her defenses. 6 months later, they got married. At the wedding, Jessica wore a simple, rented white dress. She stood there looking as quiet and beautiful as a lily kissed by morning dew. I was genuinely happy that day, like I was watching my own sister get married. And she started calling me Michael, just like Kevin did. Seeing the new and improved Kevin, the unease I'd felt from the beginning finally melted away. He was my brother-in-law, after all. As much as I couldn't stand the guy before, I was happy for him that he'd seemingly changed for love. But I never could have imagined that it was all a performance. After the wedding, Kevin dropped the act. He reverted right back to the lazy, good-for-nothing freeloader I'd always known. I never thought that my own two hands, the ones that were supposed to be helping, were the ones that pushed Jessica straight into hell. Part 2. Married life revealed Kevin for what he was. The mask was off. His days were spent with his degenerate friends. Poker nights, sports bars, late-night diners, that was his real life. He'd stumble home in the middle of the night, reeking of stale beer and cheap whiskey. Jessica saved every penny, budgeting her salary down to the last cent, but it was never enough to cover even one of his nights out. Kevin would just sneer at her. "Women, so short-sighted. God, you're a nag. Money, you spend it, you make more." Why are you killing yourself working? You think my sister and Michael are going to let us starve? But that wasn't the worst of it. The real poison was the violence coiled inside him. The hands that were so quick to shake and please out in the world became weapons at home. Several times, Jessica came to work with her bangs hanging just a little too low over her forehead, or with the faint, telltale blue and purple of a bruise that a long sleeve couldn't quite hide on her wrist or forearm. The sight of it was like a punch to my gut. When I asked, her eyes would just well up, and she'd say nothing. I finally told Sarah she needed to talk to Kevin. Her response was chilling. It's their life, Michael. They can sort out their own problems behind closed doors. We have our own life to live. Why are you getting so involved? Besides, Jessica hasn't said a thing. What am I supposed to say to my brother? I was speechless. She just added couples fight. Then make up. Just stay out of it. I knew that wasn't a solution. I had to find a chance to talk to Jessica alone. One evening, I caught her by the elevator as we were leaving. The moment she saw me, her face tensed. Michael, she said, her voice raspy, as if it had been scraped with sandpaper. I saw her eyes turn red almost instantly, and my brow furrowed. What's wrong? Jessica shook her head. Nothing. Then I saw it. A fresh bruise, half hidden by her sleeve. My blood ran cold. Did he hit you again? She shook her head violently. No. I was just clumsy. Got up last night. It was dark. I walked into the doorframe. I wasn't an idiot. I told her to get in my car. I was taking her to my house to show Sarah with her own two eyes. On the way, the guilt was eating me alive. Jessica, I am so sorry. I never should have introduced you to that punk. She choked back a sob. It's not your fault, Michael. It's on me. I didn't see him for who he was before I agreed to marry him. He fooled me too, I said, hating myself. I really thought he'd changed, but regret was useless now. We had to fix this. When we walked through the door, however, Sarah's reaction stunned me. She took on this patronizing, worldly tone with Jessica. Jess, honey, let me give you some advice. It's normal for men to let off some steam. They drink, they're under pressure, they get a little hot-headed sometimes. As a wife, you need to be more understanding. Don't go pulling a long face over every little thing. A happy home makes for a happy life. Kevin's still young. He's immature. Women mature faster than men. You're his wife. You have to be more patient with him. And you need to dial back that workaholic thing you've got going on. All you do is work. A woman's job is to take care of the house. Make sure her man is comfortable. You see what I'm saying? Hearing this, Jessica didn't know what to say. She just nodded meekly. I, on the other hand, was furious. Your brother beats her, and this is your solution? This is how you handle it. Seeing me get worked up, Sarah got angry too. I'm trying to help. Help, I sneered. Your brother is the problem, and you're lecturing Jessica? That's your idea of helping. My tone set her off, and soon we were in a full-blown shouting match. The whole thing made Jessica deeply uncomfortable. She quickly said she could handle it herself and rushed out. Part 3. Sarah and I didn't speak for a long time after that. A cold war descended on our house. We'd lie in bed at night, as if the other person didn't exist. I'd known for a while that Sarah had a blind spot for her brother, but I never imagined it was this severe. My God, your brother is physically abusing his wife, and you think the victim is the one with the problem? A few weeks later, Kevin showed up at our house with Jessica. He offered me a sincere-sounding apology for causing trouble between Sarah and me. I looked at him, then at my wife, and for her sake I bit my tongue. For a while after that, Kevin seemed to rein it in. I stopped seeing bruises on Jessica, and the knot in my stomach finally loosened. But I found out later that he'd just traded his fists for a different weapon, the silent treatment. Now, he wouldn't say a single word to her unless he needed money. I confronted Sarah about it again. Jessica is such a capable, hard-working woman. Your brother doesn't appreciate her, fine, but he can't just treat her like this. That one sentence was all it took to unleash the tirade from the beginning of this story. We had another massive fight. If your brother doesn't stop, I warned her, I swear to God, I'm calling the cops. Sarah pointed a finger right in my face. He's your brother-in-law. Who the hell is Jessica to you? Why are you so obsessed with defending her? She's my assistant, my protégée. I yelled back. Sarah's voice turned venomous and mocking. I've never seen you this broken up when I get hurt. Is she your mistress? The words hung in the air, cold and heavy. My own voice came out as a strangled, trembling whisper from between my clenched teeth. What did you just say? She stood up straighter, her voice just as sharp. What? Did I hit a nerve? Am I wrong? Kevin lays a hand on her, and you're playing the white knight, dragging her over here, chewing out my brother. Me? We've been married for years. Why have you ever asked me how I was feeling when I was sick? Why have you ever stood up for me? A blind man could see how you feel about Jessica. A roar of pure rage erupted from my chest. I slammed my fist down on the cold kitchen counter, the spice jars rattling violently. Sarah, are you out of your goddamn mind? Jessica is my protégée. I introduced her to your brother. She's in a living hell because of me, and I feel guilty. I blame myself. What does that have to do with some sordid affair? You know what your brother is. He's a wife beater. If I had a shred of decency left, I couldn't just look away. And you, instead of stopping him, you throw this disgusting filth at me. And Jessica, what is wrong with you? Sarah's voice climbed even higher, becoming hysterical. Don't you dare act so righteous with me. You spend more time with her at the office than you do with me. The patience you have when you're teaching her things. Have you ever shown me that? Don't think I don't know. God knows what the two of you are doing at the office, making eyes at each other. And now you're pretending to be a saint? Worried about your protégé? Bullshit. I was shaking with fury, my temples throbbing. The room started to spin. You're unbelievable, I hissed. I turned and walked out. If I stayed another second, I was afraid I'd do something I couldn't take back. Behind me, I could hear her curses, choked with tears and the sound of things breaking. That night, we slept in separate rooms. Silence was the only thing left between us. Part for I thought Sarah was just saying things in anger, that it would all blow over. But suspicion, once planted, grows like a weed. It had taken root in her mind, twisting and choking everything until I could barely breathe. She started investigating my every move. My phone became her primary target. If I took a shower, went to the bathroom, or even just put my phone down to get a glass of water, I'd come back to find it subtly moved, the screen still warm from being unlocked. At work, she started calling constantly. She'd phone the front desk, asking innocent-sounding questions. Is my husband in his office? Is his assistant, Jessica, there? Did they leave together? The poor receptionist, Amy, would answer truthfully, which only served as concrete proof for Sarah's paranoid theories. She'd confront me when I got home. What were you and Jessica doing downstairs at 3:30 this afternoon? At first, I tried to patiently explain, but her accusations became so relentless and absurd that I just gave up. It got worse. She started going through my briefcase and my coat pockets. Of course, she found nothing. But finding nothing didn't calm her down. It only convinced her that we were being more careful, hiding our tracks better. She started talking about Jessica in the most vicious terms. Look at her, acting so high and mighty. Who's she trying to fool? She's a damn homewrecker, born to seduce married men. So she's good at her job. I wonder how she got that good. How many beds did she have to crawl into for that? Kevin hits her. I say she deserves it. She probably did something shameless to provoke him. Where there's smoke, there's fire. The words were like raw sewage, poured over an innocent woman who was already a victim of domestic violence. I would be consumed with rage, yelling at her to stop. Sarah, that's enough. Keep your mouth clean. It was like lighting a fuse. Is this the first time you've met me? This is how I talk. What, you can do it, but you can't stand to hear it talked about. A profound weariness washed over me. The arguments, the explanations, the anger, the cold silence. It was an endless, soul-crushing cycle. I was just so tired. But Sarah's suspicion and resentment spread like a plague. She needed an ally, a partner in her crusade against the traitors. One weekend, under the guise of wanting to mediate, she invited Kevin and Jessica over for dinner. The atmosphere at the table was thick with tension. Kevin was his usual arrogant self, completely ignoring Jessica. Jessica just ate in silence, her face pale, her mind a million miles away. Between Sarah's war on me and the stress at home, I hadn't had the energy to check in on them. Jessica looked exhausted, but with Sarah's paranoia hanging over us, I didn't dare ask. Sarah, however, was putting on a show, lovingly putting food on Kevin's plate before her words took a sharp turn. You know, Kev, you really should grow up and treat Jess better. Look at your brother-in-law, Michael. He's so focused on his work now. He and Jess are such a dynamic duo. You'd think the company would fall apart without them. You should be more like him. Her words were disguised as advice, but every syllable was a dagger, meant to imply that Jessica and I were more than just colleagues. Kevin's fork froze midair. He looked up sharply. Michael, what the hell is she talking about? I put down my own fork. Kevin, your sister's talking nonsense. Don't listen to her. Don't you start to. But Kevin had a short fuse. He lunged across the table and threw a punch at me. Part 5. I was already in my breaking point, and in seconds, the living room was a war zone. It ended when a neighbor called the cops. Kevin and I spent the night at the local precinct. In that holding cell, one thought became crystal clear. I wanted a divorce. But a massive project at work consumed all my energy, and the thought was pushed to the back of my mind. I hadn't made a move yet, but Sarah already had her own plan in motion. It was the company's quarterly review meeting. All mid-level and senior management were there. Halfway through, it was time for my team, a project I co-led with Jessica, to present. As the project head, I was at the podium. Jessica, as the lead coordinator, was in the audience, running the PowerPoint. I was just getting to the key data points when the doors to the conference room were thrown open with a violent bang. Sarah and Kevin stood there, looking like two demons clawing their way out of hell. Kevin was obviously drunk, his face flushed, his eyes wild. Sarah wore the expression of a woman wronged, a wife who had come to catch her husband in the act. Kevin's roar echoed through the room. Michael Thompson, Jessica Reed, get the hell out here, you cheating bastards. The entire room fell silent. Every single head turned to me, then to Jessica, whose face had gone as white as a sheet. Sarah made a show of trying to hold Kevin back, her voice breaking dramatically. Kevin, don't do this. Don't air our dirty laundry in public. They have no shame, but we do. Let the executives here be the judge. Let them see how these two righteous-looking phonies have been screwing around behind my back. The vile accusations filled the professional silence of the conference room like a tidal wave of filth. I stood at the podium, my blood freezing and then instantly boiling over. A roaring sound filled my ears, and my vision blurred. I could see the stony faces of the executives in the front row, the looks of shock, contempt, pity, and even smug satisfaction on my colleagues' faces, all flashing before me in slow motion. The vice president chairing the meeting shot to his feet. Security. Get security in here. But Kevin was already charging down the aisle like a mad bull, straight for Jessica, who was huddled in her seat at the back. You bitch. I'll teach you to seduce other men. A short, sharp scream escaped Jessica's lips as she instinctively threw her arms over her head. My mind went blank. The world dissolved into a dull hum. In that moment, all I felt was a cold, complete, and utter deadness inside. My dignity was gone, trampled into the dirt. The career I had worked so hard to build was destroyed in an instant. This place, these people, this rotten, decaying marriage, it all filled me with a suffocating disgust. When security finally dragged the raving Kevin out, and Sarah was escorted from the premises, the conference room was in shambles. I walked over to my boss, who was still standing there, dumbfounded. I took a deep breath, and my voice came out eerily calm, but with the finality of a guillotine. Sir, I am sorry for the disgusting scene and the damage it has caused the company. I will organize all the project files for a handover to Mr. Davis. I'm resigning. Without another word, I turned and walked away. I didn't look at anyone, not even at the trembling, shattered figure in the corner. Jessica. I held my head high and, step by step, walked out of the place that had once been my pride and had now become the stage for my deepest humiliation. Part 6, the divorce, was longer and more agonizing than I could have imagined. Sarah did everything in her power to drag it out, making impossible demands. She wanted nearly everything we owned. I was emotionally exhausted. I couldn't even stand to see her face, so I let my lawyer handle everything. I didn't want to fight anymore. I made huge concessions on the assets just to get it over with. Walking out of the courthouse, the sunlight felt harsh. Sarah stood there with the divorce decree, a complicated look in her eyes as if she wanted to say something. I could see the flicker of regret, but I gave her no opening. I got in my car and drove away without looking back. I decided to leave Chicago, to start over somewhere I knew no one. Before I left, I thought about seeing Jessica one last time. My life had been blown apart, but her nightmare was my fault to begin with. But what was the point? My marriage was in ashes. Hers couldn't be much better. I just sent her a single text message. I'm so sorry for everything I put you through. I hope you can be strong and build the life you deserve. Then I packed up and moved back to my hometown, a small city in Wisconsin, to start again. Using my experience and some capital, I started my own small consulting firm. After a year, it wasn't a major corporation, but it was successful, a thriving little business. One afternoon, the phone on my desk buzzed. It was Amy, my receptionist. Mr. Thompson, there's a Ms. Reed here to see you. A Jessica Reed. The name hit me like a physical blow. I was stunned into silence. Amy had to call my name again before I snapped out of it. Send her in. The office door opened gently, and a figure stood in the doorway, so thin she looked fragile. Jessica's voice was hoarse, like sandpaper on wood. Me. Michael. Esther de hair. She'd cut her long hair, and she'd lost so much weight it was heartbreaking. My eyes started to burn, and I quickly composed myself. Come sit down. After she sat, she glanced around my office. It's a lot smaller than your old one. I gave a bitter smile and went to get her some tea. How'd you find me? She shrugged slightly. I saw your job posting online. I've been out of work for a long time. Thought I'd take a chance. My heart skipped a beat. What? You too? Jessica nodded. I left the company right after you did, and I got a divorce. I felt a pang in my chest, but also a wave of relief for her. I handed her the tea and sat back down behind my desk. The project assistant position is yours. You can start tomorrow. She smiled, a real smile, but then shook her head. I was confused. What? Is it too soon? Take care of whatever you need to. The offer stands whenever you're ready. No, Jessica said. I can start right now. I blinked, then a wide, genuine smile spread across my face. She was thinner, yes, but her spirit was back. I could see the same determined woman I'd met all those years ago. It was clear she had finally clawed her way out of the darkness of that marriage. I immediately introduced her to the team, and that night, I took the whole office out to dinner to celebrate. Honestly, seeing her again made me happier than I'd been in a long, long time. At least now, seeing her like this, the crushing weight of my guilt felt a little bit lighter. Part 7 Jessica joining the firm was like injecting rocket fuel into the engine. The fierce, unstoppable work ethic that had been buried for so long was still there. During the day, she was out in the field with Frank, our lead tech. At night, she was always the last one to leave, the glow of her monitor lighting up the dark office. The technical requirement documents that our developers wrote, impenetrable messes of jargon, she translated into plain English. The rambling, unfocused notes from long client meetings, she distilled them into clear, actionable summaries. The mountains of disorganized project files, under her touch, they became a model of order and logic. Everything was categorized, streamlined, with key points highlighted. Frank, our veteran tech guy who was as famous for his stubbornness as he was for his brilliance, couldn't stop singing her praises. Michael, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. Our project documentation used to be a complete train wreck. You could waste a whole day trying to find one piece of information. Since Jessica came on board, it's a thing of beauty. Everything is perfectly organized. Key deadlines, risk assessments, resource needs, all crystal clear. She's the anchor of this team. With her managing the details, I can finally just focus on the tech. Jessica was our good luck charm. With her on the team, business boomed. Clients loved her. Even our competitors admitted that losing a bid to her didn't feel like a defeat. We grinded like that for over a year. My small firm grew, and we officially incorporated. At the celebration dinner, the mood was electric. The team started chanting for Jessica, the hero of the hour, to say a few words. She stood up hesitantly, clutching a glass of orange juice, her cheeks flushed. I just did my job. Thank you all for working so hard alongside me. And thank you, Michael, for giving me this chance. Watching her at the podium, I was suddenly thrown back to her first day at the old company. She was just as humble then as she was now. Jessica hadn't changed at all, but I suddenly realized that I had. The way I was looking at her now was different. I was in love with her. I had planned to keep that feeling buried deep inside. The history between us, the roles we used to play, felt like an impassable chasm. But maybe it was the celebratory mood, or the fact that I'd had a bit too much to drink. On the car ride home, with Jessica driving, the words tumbled out before I could stop them. "We should be together," Jessica gasped, her hands jerking on the steering wheel. She quickly pulled the car over to the side of the road, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The shock of it sobered me up instantly. I wanted to kick myself. "No," she said, her voice filled with panic. "Michael, no, we can't," even though I regretted saying it. Her visceral reaction made me ask, "Why? That's all in the past. Kevin, Sarah, it's all over. The mention of their names was like a hot poker to a fresh wound. Her eyes turned a frightening shade of red. The past. Seeing her like this, I was at a complete loss. Tears streamed down her face, her voice tearing with a grief so raw it was terrifying. All those whispers, those looks they gave us like knives in our backs, the life they destroyed. Have you forgotten all that, Michael Thompson? Part 8, it was the first time she'd ever used my full name. It was an accusation. The second we get together, the second there's even a hint of a rumor, people will point their fingers and say, "See, I knew it. They were screwing around the whole time." All that filth will come rushing back. We just barely crawled out of that sewer. Do you really want to jump back in? Is it the life you want? She was breathing heavily, her chest heaving, tears falling like rain. And you, Michael, can you even tell the difference? The way you treat me, this feeling you think you have, is it real? Or is it just guilt because you're the one who threw me to the wolves, who pushed me into that hell with Kevin? If it's guilt, then don't bother. I don't need your pity. And I sure as hell don't need you to make it up to me by being with me. That's not real. It's pathetic. It's an insult to both of us. Her words were icicles, each one sharpened by years of humiliation and pain. They shattered the fragile fantasy I had tried to build. I sat there, frozen, feeling like I'd been struck by lightning. Guilt, love. In that moment, I couldn't tell the difference anymore either. I was completely, devastatingly sober. "You're right, Jessica. I'm sorry," I said, my voice hollow. Maybe I really do need to figure that out. We should just stay friends and colleagues. That's better for you, for me." Every word felt like I was giving up something vital. She wiped her tears away with a rough, angry gesture and looked at me with an unreadable expression. There was disappointment in her eyes, but also relief and something else, a deeper, more profound pain. She swallowed hard and, after a few seconds of silence, managed a single, hoarse word. "Okay." Life went on, but now with a carefully constructed, deliberate distance between us. We both respected the unspoken boundary. At work, we were the perfect team, efficient, professional, perfectly in sync. Outside of work, there was nothing. No casual texts, no friendly check-ins. Just a professional void. Until the business trip. We were bidding on a crucial new project in Minneapolis. On the drive back, I was behind the wheel. Jessica was in the passenger seat, head down, focused on organizing the mountain of documents and client notes from the presentation. The scratch of her pen a soft, steady sound. Outside, the sky was the color of bruised slate. Not long after we hit the highway, the storm that had been brewing all day finally broke. Rain came down in sheets, hammering the windshield and the roof with a deafening roar. I cranked the wipers to their highest setting, but they could barely keep up. They cleared the glass for a split second before it was once again obscured by a white wall of water. Suddenly, a blinding glare of high beams pierced the downpour from the opposite lane. A truck, like some out-of-control steel beast, had completely lost its lane and was barreling at a terrifying speed, straight for us. The lights distorted and magnified in the rain, swallowing our entire field of vision. "Look out!" Jessica's scream was ripped from her throat, exploding at the same instant as the ear-splitting squeal of tires. The impact was like being hit head-on by a freight train. The world spun violently, flipping over and over. Part 9. The airbag exploded with a deafening bang, slamming into my face with suffocating force. Then came the shriek of shattering glass and the horrific groan of twisting, tearing metal. Icy rain poured in through the broken windows, mixing with the sickeningly sweet smell of gasoline. And something else, the thick, metallic tang of fresh blood filling my nose. A wave of agony dragged me from the blackness. Pain erupted from every inch of my body, especially my left leg and my chest. Every breath was a fresh stab of fire. The front of the car was crushed. My leg was pinned by the mangled dashboard. I couldn't move. A fear colder and sharper than the thought of death itself seized my heart. With a surge of adrenaline, I forced my throbbing head to turn. I had to see Jessica. She was slumped in the twisted passenger seat, her face covered in blood. Broken glass had sliced her forehead and cheek, and blood was streaming down her face. Her eyes were closed, her long lashes matted with red. Her skin was a ghastly, lifeless gray. And then I saw her leg. Her right leg was trapped, crushed between the dashboard and the crumpled doorframe, bent at a sickening, unnatural angle. Blood was seeping from the wreckage, staining her pants a dark, terrifying crimson. I screamed her name, my voice a shredded wreck. Jessica! Jessica! Wake up! Please wake up! There was no response, only the sound of the relentless, pouring rain. The shadow of death felt real, pressing down on me, cold and absolute. Watching her life drain away, the question that had tormented me for so long became brutally, terrifyingly simple. Jessica, can you hear me? I forced the words out, each one a battle against the searing pain in my chest, the taste of blood in my throat. My voice was faint but clear. I know. You always thought I was good to you. Because of guilt. Because I was the one who pushed you into that hell with Kevin. Made you suffer. So much. I gasped for air, the pain and blood loss making the world swim. But I had to say it. This might be the only chance I would ever get. And it's true. I was guilty. I am. Not a day has gone by that I don't regret it. That stupid, arrogant decision. But, Jessica, right now, looking at you, lying here, I don't feel guilt. I just hurt. It hurts so bad. And I'm scared. I'm so goddamn scared of losing you. It's love. I love you, Jessica. Not because of the past. Because of you. Just you. The person you are. Do you hear me? It's love. It's real. I didn't know if she heard me. The wail of sirens grew closer, slicing through the roar of the storm. Red and blue lights flashed against my eyelids. I heard heavy footsteps, the high-pitched, tooth-grinding squeal of metal being cut, the urgent shouts of paramedics. My consciousness faded in and out, a raft on a sea of pain. Each time I surfaced from the darkness, a single thought drove me to use my last ounce of strength. Get her first. The passenger. She's hurt worse. Get her out first. Don't worry about me. Save her. Please. Get her first. The agony pulled me under again and again. But every time I regained a sliver of awareness, that one frantic plea was the only thing keeping me from sinking completely. The next thing I knew, I was breathing in the sharp, clean scent of a hospital. My body felt like it had been taken apart and put back together wrong. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the gnawing anxiety about Jessica. A nurse told me she had woken up a little before I did. A compound fracture in her right tibia and fibula. She'd had surgery and was in a heavy cast, but she was out of danger. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for an eternity and finally fell into a deep, relieved sleep. A few days later, doped up on painkillers, I was able to sit up. The door to my room opened quietly. A nurse wheeled in a wheelchair. Jessica was sitting in it. Her small frame was swallowed by the oversized hospital gown. Her face was ashen, her lips colorless. Her right leg was encased in a thick cast, elevated on a support. There was gauze on her forehead and a few healing cuts on her cheek. But her eyes were incredibly bright, like embers burning in the dark, and they were fixed on me. The nurse pushed her to my bedside, whispered a few instructions, and left. We were alone in the room. The silence was heavy with the aftershock of what we'd been through, with relief, and with 1,000 things left unsaid. She was the first to speak, her voice soft and weak, with a faint tremor. The paramedics told me, when they were cutting the roof off the car, you were pinned in the driver's seat. You were unconscious, but you kept mumbling something. She paused, as if gathering her strength. Her eyes welled up, and tears began to slide silently down her pale cheeks. Then, you woke up for a second. Your eyes weren't even open, and you started yelling with everything you had, until your voice was gone, until you were choking on blood. You just kept yelling those 3 words, "Save her first." She looked at me, her own voice choked with tears, replaying the terror. When the truck hit us, I thought, that was it. We were going to die. The feeling, it was horrible. And then, in that dark, cold place, I thought I heard you say, "Love." Her tears were flowing freely now. Michael, in that moment, all you could think about was me living. Was it true? What you said, it wasn't because of guilt. You weren't just pitying me. She had finally asked it, the question that had been a splinter in her heart for years. I looked at her, into those tear-filled eyes, and I answered slowly, clearly, with all the certainty in my soul. It was true, Jessica. Every word. Maybe at the very beginning, there was a heavy dose of guilt mixed in. I can't deny that. But later, watching you pull yourself out of that nightmare, watching you work so hard, build a new life, my heart wasn't driven by guilt anymore. It was admiration. I couldn't imagine my life without you. It was this desperate need to protect you. The second before that truck hit, my mind went blank. There was only one thing left. You, and the terror of losing you. That has nothing to do with guilt. Do you believe me? She didn't answer right away. Just let the tears fall, washing away the scars of the past. Time stretched on, marked only by the soft sound of her crying. After what felt like an eternity, she slowly raised her uninjured left hand and reached for me. I reached out without a second's hesitation and took her cold, trembling hand in mine. I held on tight, as if I were holding the most precious, irreplaceable thing in the universe. As if I were holding my entire world. Through her tears, the corners of her mouth curved upward into a small, fragile, but undeniable smile. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling across our joined hands. It lit up the spark of life rekindling in her eyes. Her voice was a whisper. I believe you, Michael. This time, let's live together. The sunlight was warm. 2 scarred hands, forged in hell and tempered by fire, finally held on and refused to let go.